my dear friends. My name is Harold, and welcome to the Sanctum, your gateway to learning and exploring the ancient wisdom of the East and the West. So, in this episode of the Sanctum, we're going to be talking a little bit more about ancestors and what exactly are ancestral spirits. So, ancestral spirits, especially in shamanic traditions and African traditions and Native American as well as the Toltec tradition, these are particular spirits that people tend to work with. Now, what exactly is an ancestor? So, first of all, an ancestor is anyone that is associated with our lineage. This could be our paternal lineage or our maternal lineage that came before us. So, for example, your grandmother, your grandfather, your great grandmother, your great grandfather, and so on from your mother's side as well as your father's side, going all the way back, could be considered an ancestor. So, when we're referring to an ancestral spirit, of course, we're referring to somebody who has passed on, who has passed away. If they're still in their body, they are in the physical existence. They can physically help you, but they may not be able to metaphysically help you. But if we want to connect with our ancestors, this could be very useful, especially if our ancestors had a particular trait or quality that we'd like to connect with or borrow to help us in our life. Right? So, for example, if we had an ancestor who was very good with business and we want to start a business, we might want to connect with that ancestor to gain help with our business. In the same way, if we have an ancestor who's very good at cooking and we are to become a chef, we might want to connect with that ancestor. Or if we just want information about the secrets of our lineage or information about the past, we might want to connect with a particular ancestor who is able to give us information about that particular time. Or if we want general protection, guidance, or help, ancestors are very powerful spirits to reach out to, as we have a physical connection with them. For example, right now our ancestors are there within us, in our body, because in our body we have something called genetic memory. Okay, so right now you may not remember what your great 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 grandmother looked like, but you may have her eyes. You may not know what your great 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 grandfather looks like, but you may have his nose, because genetically your entire body is expressing their characteristics, their physical characteristics. But also psychologically, this is now becoming more and more of a fact in modern day psychology, that our ancestors and the patterns of our ancestors are repeating itself through us in some way. In yogic traditions and shamanic traditions, we may call this ancestral karma. The action of our ancestors are expressing itself through us in some way. So just like that, if your ancestors had a particular trait, the likelihood of you expressing that is high. Or if your ancestors had a certain problem, the likelihood of you expressing it is also high in that way, because it's there in your lineage, it's there in your blood. The same goes for something positive. So oftentimes, I think one of the other questions somebody asked me on the comment section of one of my videos that I made on elemental spirits was, why would somebody decide to connect with an ancestor or an ancestral spirit rather than a superior spirit or the supreme spirit or God or source, if you want to call it, whatever you wish to call it? Why would somebody ask the ancestors for help rather than the eternal spirit? Well, first of all, for some people, it doesn't mean that you can't work with both at the same time, but an eternal spirit may seem so far off from what you are right now. because it's so inconceivable, so ineffable that it may seem so far away. So praying or asking for help from an eternal spirit or the source of all may seem very distant to some. Well, as an ancestor is right there. It's like your grandmother, your grandfather, your great grandfather. They are connected to you immediately right now. They're closer. And they have a form. You can give them a form. You can see their picture. So in that way, it could be easier to connect for some people to an ancestral spirit. So that's why people can work with ancestors. So very quickly now, I'm going to talk about how you can connect with your own ancestors. There are many different ways that you can do this. Different traditions give different practices that you can do this. But one very simple way is to give offerings to your ancestors. And you can do this by creating a little altar, having a little table in the corner, and having, if you have any pictures of your ancestors, you can place those pictures on the altar, but it's not necessary. If you don't have pictures, or if you have some kind of family tree, that's even better. But otherwise, what you would do is you would just keep a little table or an altar in the corner, and you would have these 4 things. You would have a little candle, you would have a little cup or glass of water, or wine if your ancestors did drink alcohol, or another drink offering of your choice, tea, coffee maybe. Then maybe you want to have a food item, maybe a certain food item that it may have been passed through your lineage, or just literally some salt or some rice or some bread is fine too. And finally, you want to have some incense. Any incense will do. Frankincense, myrrh, any kind of incense will do. And of course, these 4 offerings are associated with the 4 elements. Of course, fire is the candle, water is the drink, earth is the food item, and air is of course the incense. So you're offering the 4 elements to your ancestors, and then you can simply place those there and have the intention, or just say out loud, ancestors, I call upon thee. I call upon my mother's lineage, I call upon my father's lineage, I call upon all my ancestors to be present with me in this room, and I offer you this gift of fire, air, earth, water, of bread, wine, frankincense, and light, which is the fire. And then you allow those offerings to be there. Now, if you want, you can even speak out a request from your ancestors. Let's say you want to bring more clients to your business, you want protection from something. Let's say you want to go traveling and you want your ancestor to guide you to that opportunity, whatever it might be. You can ask your ancestors for it. You can simply verbally ask it. Or another very powerful way is to actually form a symbol out of your intention. We call this a sigil. And on my Patreon series, I talk about how you can make these sigils and symbols. And once you've made one, you can literally draw it on a piece of paper and turn clockwise, showing all your ancestors, imagining that they are in your room. If those of you who are clairvoyant or who are sensitive to this sort of stuff, you might even see your ancestors. And you show your ancestors the symbol, and this will convey that message in a much more powerful, important way in terms of what you're trying to manifest into your life. Okay, and then you take the sigil and you place it with the offerings on the altar top. Okay, and then there are various other things you can do. If you're a musician, you can play music for your ancestors. That's something that I like to do because I'm a musician too. I like to play music and offer music and sound to entertain the ancestors. And in this way, you are connecting to this energy and you're forming a stronger bond. Yeah, I hope this all makes sense. And then once you're finished, you can ask your ancestors to go back to their respective places and to help you with manifesting your desire. And once that's done, the offerings, you throw them away. So if it's a glass of wine, you don't want to drink it and you don't want to eat the bread because you've offered it. So instead you want to throw it away and assume that your ancestors have now taken these offerings and received these offerings. So this is essentially one thing that you can do to connect to your ancestors in this way. So I hope this all makes sense. If you like this video, please click the like button, subscribe, and I hope to see you very soon in the next video.